Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Red Right Youth Podcast. My name is Peter.
I am Alexa.
And this is Dan.
And we are currently in the second episode of the Advent series, where we are exploring the meaning of Christmas. Please join us as we take a look at the greatest story that has ever been told. Over to you, Daniel.
So, last week we started unpacking a bit about Christmas, the myths, debunking some things that maybe aren't so true, and I thought I would do that again.
Cool.
I have two pieces of information that might rock your world when it comes to Christmas.
Okay, let's hear.
So the first one is that Santa Claus was not red,
Yo, that's crazy.
right? The overcoat, the hat that he wears, the rosy cheeks he's got, that's all a ploy from Coca-Cola in 1931.
Cause Coke is a scam. No, I'm joking.
So they rebranded Santa to this more merry, this more joyous person because he originally, apparently, was pretty stern.
That's
and
so
blue,
sad.
white, and green.
Crazy.
Yeah, pretty crazy. Another interesting piece of information is that Rudolph was a marketing ploy. And again, right? By a company called Montgomery Ward Department Store. And in 1939, this man wrote Rudolph into a children's story that would be given out to promote the store.
Crazy.
It was a huge hit. It sold more than 2.4 million copies in the first year. 1949, we get the song by Gene Autry, the famous Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. And in 1964, we see Rudolph displayed in his first feature film,
Cute.
Island of Misfit Toys.
Wow.
Last piece of interesting information about Rudolph. His name originally is Reginald.
No, guys.
Reginald, the red-nosed reindeer.
No, that would not have worked. Reindeers are pretty cool, guys.
Really?
Yeah. I saw
Okay.
some when, like, 2014.
In South Africa.
No. I went to Lapland.
Really?
What or where is Lapland?
That's it's like Finland, Greenland vibes. Yeah. You just, I just went with my dad.
Just say that
casually.
again. Just say that again. You went to Finland and Greenland.
Yeah.
Or either or.
It was the only place that had guaranteed snow. There was like 4 hours a day light.
So you just went there for snow?
Well, yeah, and like the whole Christmas experience, you know, just for fun.
Just for fun.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what? Like, I'm just gonna for fun travel to Finland for the Christmas experience.
I mean, I didn't pay for it. My dad did. So
oh, that's fair. You're 10. I
Yeah,
don't think you have the finances to pay for it
imagine.
just yet.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
When you get there, though, you can hook a brother up and
Yeah. I had a broken arm though.
Oh,
so it was
nice.
like, slaying with a broken arm. It was
Nice.
quite hard to direct, but it was cool.
you get to
Yeah.
pet some reindeer.
Yeah, they're not as like cute and cuddly as they show them, but it's fun. They're kind of like just moose with like deer horns.
Really?
Yeah,
Cool.
it's not as cool.
And I think an important question we all want to know.
Yes.
Did any reindeer have a red nose?
Sadly not. I did want to paint one of their noses though. My dad said no, so that was kind of sad.
I think that was a wise decision by your dad.
Gets
if we're honest.
imprisoned.
Yeah, gets in prison, huge Euro fine.
I imagine.
He was a wise man there.
Yeah.
I mean, on the topic of reindeers, we are going to be looking at the Magi's. And they didn't come and see Jesus on reindeers. They probably would have came on camels.
Yeah. Imagine a camel sleigh.
A camel sleigh. That's pretty interesting. I think it would go pretty slow,
Yeah, I would.
right?
Yeah.
I mean, I've never ridden on a camel, but
They're
I know
slow.
it's slow.
They're slow.
And it wouldn't have traveled on snow. They would have traveled on sand
In the desert.
in the desert. Yeah.
Interesting.
Over many, many kilometers. The
How many?
original gift givers were on camels, not reindeers, guys.
Interesting. Crazy.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Imagine we just rebranded Rudolph to a camel.
Imagine.
Or I guess now it could fit as Reginald. Reginald the red-nosed camel. No, that doesn't seem like it's going to work. We're going to scrap that.
You know what? Maybe in 100 years' time.
Maybe in 100 years' time, we'll have this multi-million-dollar company like Coca-Cola rebrand.
Yeah.
Not Santa, but the reindeers
Yes.
Yeah.
to camels.
Camels.
That's
Well,
cool.
Good idea.
Do you guys want to hear some myths about the Magi's?
Yeah, let's hear.
Of course.
Yeah. So the first myth is that there were 3 of them.
Yeah, that probably came from the 3 gifts.
Yeah, gold, frankincense, and myrrh.
Yeah.
Yeah. The scriptures, the Bible doesn't actually tell us that there were 3 of them. It just tells us the Magi's. So it could have been 7 or 10.
Or 20.
Yeah. That would have been a lot of magi, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All
And-
in one stable? Crazy.
Interesting, though, about
Yes.
that. Do you think they were at the stable?
No,
Right?
I don't know, actually.
No, they weren't.
They weren't.
That's another myth.
Yeah.
actually.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Because they would have, when the star appeared,
Yeah.
when Jesus was born, they would have had to have traveled over 1,000 kilometers.
Your 11 comrades.
Yeah, even more. And it would have taken them a couple of months to get to where Jesus was. And Jesus probably would have been staying somewhere else,
Crazy.
probably at his own house.
Yeah.
Well, his parents' house in Bethlehem.
Let's take a moment to pause quickly. It's crazy to think that Jesus would have had his own house. Well, it would have been his parents' house.
Yeah.
But like, I mean, I live in a house. I'm like, mind boggled to think, man, Jesus also lived in a house.
Yeah.
He had a little room. He had like a tub of sorts to like
Yeah.
bath in.
Yeah.
He like ate food. I don't know. That was just a crazy little side thought I had as you were saying that, Pete.
And he would have had his own soap.
Yeah?
I think
Wow.
there's soap back then. I
And-
didn't check.
And then you would have been visited by however many magi, wise men there were.
Yeah.
And here's this normal family
Yeah.
living
Yeah.
in Israel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And these 3 men appear at their doorstep
Mm.
and give them 3 incredible kingly gifts.
Yeah. I mean, what did you guys get for when you were born? Before you turned a year old or so, what did you
I
did you
don't
get
know.
any gold?
Not that I know of.
Definitely no gold. I can tell you that now. No
Yeah.
frankincense either. Frankincense is fragrance.
Yes,
Correct?
it is. Yeah, yeah. And then myrrh's like a spice.
Sparse. So I think I could be wrong on
Yeah.
that, but I didn't get any of those, unfortunately.
No.
Sorry, man.
That's okay. I'm not a king or a prince, so it would make sense as to why I didn't get
Yeah.
these extravagant gifts.
You
but
probably
Yeah.
got some clothes there.
I did.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
probably also got some clothes.
I know that I also ate some cake, I think.
Mm.
Well,
I wasn't
maybe-
allowed to. I was too fat.
Nice.
Thank you for that.
We appreciate that.
Well, my question to you guys is, who do you think the Magi's were?
I mean, there's what the scriptures say in
Yeah.
that they were wise men,
Yeah.
right? And these wise men obviously were following the star. And so they were, at least what historians and theologians agree to be, astrologists. So like people who studied stars. I know that they also interpreted dreams
Yeah,
and sacred historical religious texts.
absolutely. In fact, by the time of Jesus, the term Magi had broadened.
Interesting.
And so it came to include people who studied sacred writings, people who pursued wisdom, or people who were magicians. So if they studied sacred writings, it was probably likely that they would have studied the Hebrew Bible,
Yeah.
which is the Old Testament.
Torah.
That's really interesting because then they would have been exposed to different prophecies about this coming Messiah.
Yeah.
So when they were following the star, as much as it was this journey that they undertook, which they didn't have a certain definitive end that they knew, like, we know this is going to happen, but they had maybe this inkling of an idea as to what it could be at the end.
Yeah.
Yes,
Once they reach their destination.
absolutely. In fact, what is fascinating is that the term Magi, if you study the scriptures, you find that it also appears in the book of Daniel. So
Interesting.
Daniel would have been, because another word for Magi is the wise men,
Yeah.
and Daniel would have been one of those.
Huh.
Yeah,
So he was one of the wise men.
yeah.
That's pretty cool.
He would have studied ancient Babylonian literature and wisdom, and would have
Crazy.
been an expert in Babylonian wisdom.
Sure. So
Interesting.
somehow through the exile of Israel, the capturing and enslaving of the people,
Yeah.
and taking people like Daniel and his friends, these Jewish texts
Yeah.
creep their way into Babylon,
Yes.
Babylonian history.
Yes.
And we found ourselves now at the point where these magi, these wise men,
Yeah.
are exposed to them
Yes.
and reading them, trying to understand them.
Yes.
And the star appears.
Yes. And of course, these astrologers these wise men would not have been worshipping one God. They probably would have been worshipping many gods. So the Bible would have been just one of these other sacred writings that they would have been studying.
Interesting.
And yeah, it is actually amazing because you begin to realize that that the people furthest from God were the ones that God somehow, by some incredible, mysterious way,
by His grace,
reveals His plan to them through them studying the stars.
Yeah. And I think we can sometimes discount people who are far from God, but actually there's something He's doing with them as well.
Yes.
I think we can sometimes be like, oh, I know all the answers, but actually there's someone who's far from God that knows God is speaking to them, He's working in them.
Absolutely. Yeah. Because how else would they have known?
Yeah.
No one just looks up at a star and is like, that star is telling me what the King of the Jews is saying.
That'd actually be pretty helpful, though.
Yeah. I mean, I wish I had that amazing ability to look up at the stars and be like, yeah,
the King
man.
of the Jews is on his way.
It's like he's there. Let's go, guys.
Yeah.
But somehow they would have read passages in the scriptures that would have highlighted this and would have thought, man, this is the King of the Jews. And then knowing that the King of the Jews has arrived, it is over 1,000 Ks.
Yeah.
So they set out traveling over 1,000 Ks, taking a risk, if you think about it, to travel so far.
Yeah. And it's not guaranteed.
It's not guaranteed that if they arrive there that they will find this King of the Jews. They might very well arrive and find that they are wrong.
Yeah.
With crazy gifts as well.
Yeah,
like,
expensive gifts.
Yeah.
I mean, there was, I suppose there could have been a fear of bandits along the way, and many other situations that might have arose. And it makes me think these wise men, were willing to risk this treacherous journey to travel to or to where the star would later rest in Bethlehem. Yet there are other people a lot closer who don't.
Yeah.
Pete, maybe you can explain a little bit more about that, because there are scribes, there's experts of the law,
Yes.
a lot closer than 1,000 kilometers.
Yes.
10 kilometers away, maybe even less.
Well, they were less than 10 kilometers away. They were in Jerusalem. They were.
That's right there.
Yeah. I mean, if you go on a hike, I mean, some people can run 10 Ks quite quickly. So they could have gotten to Jesus in less than an
45
hour.
minutes.
Yeah. Or they could have walked and have gone to Jesus. These guys spend months on the road, the Magi's. And yet, when the message comes to them about that the Magi's are looking for this King of the Jews, what is fascinating is that the chief priests, well, the experts of the law, the ones who knew the Bible very well, they were experts in the Bible, they were trained. They are called in by Herod, and Herod questions them on this because they would have heard. And they are able to answer Herod perfectly. But do they actually go out to seek Jesus? No, they don't.
I mean, I would think they would. I mean, I don't want to assume and put myself in that time, because I'm not. I'm here. But I would think this Messiah figure that's been promised and prophesied for so long apparently is being born. You would think they would want to go look, right? You would think that they would do some investigative work to see, is this true? Is this supposed prophecy, proclamation of this Jesus?
Yeah.
Is it true that he's being born?
Is it happening now?
Is it happening?
Yeah.
I would think.
Yeah.
But not.
Obviously not.
Is obviously the case.
Yeah. And that begs that helps us to learn some lessons. And probably the one thing that jumps out at me as we ponder the story is that the danger with us is that we can become so familiar with Jesus that he ends up becoming background noise that subconsciously we know is there, but it doesn't affect us anymore.
Just crazy.
Sure. The experts in the scriptures knew exactly what the Bible had to say about Jesus being born in Bethlehem, but when he arrived in the scene, they couldn't recognize him.
Yeah.
They were ignorant, they were indifferent to this Jesus, who's just been born, yet these wise men traveling so far were not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It took people who were outside to be able to come and tell them that the Savior of the world
Was born.
is born, the
Yeah.
King of the Jews.
Yeah.
And I think what we can learn from this is that we who are closest to God should never assume anything.
Yeah.
The moment we think that we have understood God and His ways, because these experts,
they
they
had.
seem to have known the scriptures well. And they probably might have thought that they had God figured out. And the moment we feel like we think that we have figured God out is the moment that we put ourselves in the position of missing Him. And the way we do that is sometimes when we go to church on a Sunday
Or
and we
youth.
sing carols. That's coming up. We go to youth on Friday and it just becomes the same old. We sing the songs, we've heard the songs before, and it doesn't impact us like it used to
Yeah.
before.
Yeah.
We hear Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John being preached to us, and it doesn't impact us anymore. And what ends up happening is that God is working under our nose,
Yeah.
but we don't see Him because we have become indifferent.
Sure.
Yeah.
And his words and His ways no longer have an effect on us, and we end up missing the star.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the story of the Magi, the story of the scribes, the story of Herod,
Yeah.
it shows us how different people respond to the arrival of Jesus. And the question I want to pose to all of us, including those who are listening,
Yeah.
is how do you respond to Jesus?
With hatred or
With
yeah.
hatred, with anger or fear,
Yeah.
like Herod?
Yeah.
Do you respond with indifference, like the scribes? Or do you respond with enthusiasm and this desire to get to know this Jesus who's been born?
And take risks.
Yeah.
Yeah. For him.
I mean, think of Herod. Herod responds with hatred and fear. He's disturbed,
Yeah.
primarily because he's king.
Yeah.
And now he hears people say that the King of the Jews has been born. So he is afraid of losing his throne because he wants to remain king. And the reality is that there was no space in the kingdom for another king. And Herod did not want to be the one to make room for Jesus.
Yeah, and I think we can sometimes be like Herod in that sense where we don't want to give over control of our lives. We're like, no, I'm the king of my life, but actually Jesus is. I think that's like just a point that could be cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Very good points, Alexa. We don't want to make room for Jesus because we want our ways.
Went
Yeah.
our way. Yeah, we fear what he has to do, but actually we're called to be like a magi and take that risk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, guys, with that bombshell, it's time to end. Thank you for joining us. Have a wonderful day and week. Goodbye.
Bye.
Cheers and see you next week.
Ha!